Another domino falls for a recession as job creation turns negative for small businesses who employ nearly half of all Americans. In the past year, payrolls for companies under 50 employees plunged by nearly 100,000, while job trends were flat for mid-sized businesses up to 500 employees. The only bright spot was big business, which might be changing given recent layoff announcements, including 2,500 at Chrysler, 4,000 at Cisco, 12,000 at Dell, and 15,000 jobs eliminated at Intel. Paramount and the left-wing Axios are both cutting 10 to 15% of their workforce. Go woke, go broke. Mish Shedlock reports the numbers, adding that he's, quote, seen enough and thinks the recession has already begun, possibly starting last October. The media, of course, has been saying recession is impossible because unemployment is still low and there is still production. But Mish points out that recessions typically start during periods of low unemployment and positive industrial production because the employers and the producers do not yet know it is a recession. That's the whole point. They keep chugging along straight off the cliff. Incidentally, part of the reason they are blindsided is specifically because the thousands of Ph.D. economists we pay at the Fed and Treasury are specifically instructed to hide bad news. They call this, quote, forward guidance, and you'll recognize it from those late-night press conferences when Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen are telling us everything is fine. Meanwhile, Mish notes that even that low unemployment may be an illusion since he expects a potential million-plus jobs revision coming from the infamous, quote, birth-death model where the Bureau of Labor Statistics guesses how many companies are creating jobs and pretends it is real. Note, this million-job gap is different than the gap with household surveys, where they actually ask people if they've got a job. There, my colleague E.J. Antoni estimates jobs could be overcounting by 2 million or more. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. Jobs are the single most important economic indicator after inflation. Not only because jobs are life and death for voters, basically people who lose their jobs become single-issue voters, but also because jobs are a near-perfect predictor of recession. Once you start to lose jobs, you're essentially guaranteed a recession. To illustrate, in the last three normal recessions, 1990, 2001, and 2008, the recession started either the same month or within 2 months of unemployment rising. But they didn't officially recognize the recession until 9 to 12 months later. In other words, don't bother listening to the official numbers, even they admit that jobs always call it first. That's also why it's so tempting for the government to lie on jobs numbers, for example, counting part-time gigs as full-time jobs, not counting people who have dropped out of the labor force, or just old-fashioned statistical adjustment. If history is a guide, going by jobs, we are on the edge of recession. They're just waiting until after November to admit it. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.